And the first thing on my mind is when you're in a lot of these decarbonisation discussions, people are talking about it as it's like something that's happening in the future, right? Because we're focused on 2030 or 2050 goals. But there are ships in the bay right now, being fueled by methanol and by ammonia as well. So I'm going to ask you to kick us off, Kenneth, and give us the kind of, how are you approaching this? Because these are in your port right now. You've been very active in this space, so maybe you could kick us off.
Thank you very much. And I think since the topic is about human and the heroes, I think that's the one key thing that we do when we do the trial for MERS, for methanol, and then for Fortescue on the ammonia. The key objective, of course, is the safe operation and the safe bunkering of these fuels. Since we already have our conventional fuel, we have 8 years of experience in LNG, and then we do biofuel, and hence this new fuel that may be coming on board in 2026, 27. And so the preparation needs to start now, right? Because it is all about the seafarers and, of course, the onshore workers and colleagues to be safe if such fuel were to be used in our port waters. So like methanol, the first thing that we keep thinking is, and to do, is to make the management to be aware that the flame of methanol. If there is a fire on board and the methanol caught fire, it is almost invisible. So actually you can't see the flame, and therefore we invite the management and the crew, and even IMO SecGen, when he was here during the Singapore Maritime Week, to do that trial and to see for himself how to put a fire out for methanol, because you can't see it, and therefore you need to have technology to assist you to observe the flame. Likewise, if there's an ammonia, how is the plume going to be like, and where your seafarer is going to stand on board during the bunkering become very important. So down to that steps of where do you stand, where do you paint red zone in your on board your ships and all that. So it is all about making sure that the seafarers and the shore workers are able to understand clearly, not to have too much burden in terms of reading out too many manuals, by visual inspection, by gauges, by technology to help them to overcome this and to get them prepared for the new fuel. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. And I think that on that preparation side of things, you mentioned a lot of different sort of aspects in there that kind of start to formulate the kinds of things that we need to enable people to achieve. And I know that, James, I'm going to come to you next, because this is really the purpose of what's been set up there in terms of. So can you give us a bit of a background in terms of how you're feeding into that work?
Yeah, sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. For those of you that haven't come across the Maritime Decarbonisation Hub, we are a non-profit focused on supporting maritime's decarbonisation. And with reference to this question, we've been working on the Maritime Just Transition Task Force together with Ocean Technology Group and a number of other consortium members, looking at trying to build the recommended crew competency framework for that ultimately will go to STCW for vessels powered by ammonia, by methanol, and by hydrogen. So, speaking more broadly about challenge at hand, since you mentioned that these ships are already being ordered, that they're already, to a certain extent, on the water. Coming from a class society background, I'm aware of what has happened in the regulatory space to allow for those vessels to be designed, to be constructed, to be classed. And the frame of reference that we have had in the industry so far has been at a system risk level. So we've understood that these new fuels bring hazards, that they have attributes and characteristics that we're not used to handling as fuels within our industry, and that's going to bring a lot more risk to our seafarers. So the way we've dealt with that so far has been to set system-based solutions. I'm going to add this safety feature here, I'm going to add that protection or that control mechanism there. And that's all good, that all needs to happen. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But the net impact of that is that it has also meant, and therefore the seafarer needs to learn this, and they need to learn that, and they need to learn how to do the next thing and the next thing. And collectively, we seem to have told ourselves that this is all going to be fine, this transition is going to be safe, so long as we train seafarers more, and we document exactly what the competency gaps are, and we explain everything that they need to learn. And that's kind of what's happening now. And again, I'll restate, that's not necessarily a bad approach. You need to start that approach. You need to understand what the competencies are that people need to have, but you shouldn't satisfy yourself that that's enough, because anyone who's had experience in trying to train a large group of people from very different backgrounds with very different routes to training will know that you worry about the consistency of what you can teach people. So I think we're in a place now where we need to ask ourselves, when's enough enough? When do we stop transferring the burden of complexity onto the operator and say it will be fine so long as the seafarer learns how to do this safely, and we close a little bit of an iterative loop that goes back into regulatory and standard development that says, how do I put the human at the center of what my acceptability criteria is, what a human-centric design and ergonomics can mean to keep people safe. It's a roundabout way of answering your question, I know, but in effect, I think that's a good snapshot of where we are at the moment and what we need to be careful for in the months and years to come.